My name is Uzi Krieger. I'm with Panaya. Yep. And we're going to talk about how to manage change and how to help admins become super admins, both in your day-to-day work and in how you're perceived within the business. So we have a special guest with us today. Oh, wait, right before our special guest, we have the Safe Harbor notice. Thank you. And we have here Gaurav Seth from Ashoka, and a very seasoned Salesforce Pro and then Salesforce MVP. And I'm going to actually let him present how he uses, or how his company uses Panaya ChangeGuru. And after that, we'll be happy to take some questions from the audience. Gaurav, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Uzi. And thanks, everyone, for joining. Good morning and welcome. So I took over a Salesforce instance that was about 6 years old 3 years ago. And there was a user who wanted to add a new workflow rule on opportunities, a very simple sounding rule. And I really wanted to do it based on the probability, and he really wanted to do it based on the stage name. And I said, probability is not going to break in the future when you guys decide to change the stage name, which of course they will do. But he really wanted it to be on stage name. And he responded with this quote that I shall read to you and that I have saved. And he said, ideally, in a perfect world, which I realize we aren't living in, I imagine that to protect for the future, there'd be a documentation and a process for change management, something that would require us to check existing code when adding and changing code so that we can manage implications across related but separate code. This is a best practice, and there are a host of ways of doing it, depending on the complexity of the software, etc. So, like I said, I'd inherited a 6-year-old instance. We didn't have much documentation. And, I was a fairly seasoned admin, but I'd never heard of anything that did what this guy was saying existed. So I looked for it. I Googled around. I couldn't find anything. I asked my boss. He said, no such thing exists. So fast forward a few months at Dreamforce last year, standing in line for a little food truck outside of Moscone West, I met this developer named Karen who told me about this product that she was working on that was unreleased, and it is this product that I'm about to talk to you about. And it sounded like it did just that. It would look through your instance and tell, if you're going to change a field, it would tell you what all the impact was. And so, we tested it out for 6 months, and we tested it in a sandbox. I met Uzi, we installed it, and now we're using it. And I'm going to walk you through kind of some of the use cases and how we're using it. So we now have integrated this product called Panaya ChangeGuru into our change management process. We use it on any change request. You want to change the name of a pick list value, you want to add a new field, you want to remove a field, you want to onboard or offboard, transfer a user. We use it for all of those things. And it's just really a tremendously useful program for, telling you what the impact of the change is going to be, and keeping you from breaking stuff and making you a much faster and more productive admin. Before we actually went ahead and purchased this, I looked at whether it's possible to do this in different ways, and I tried diving into Eclipse, I tried a lot of different things, and there was nothing that really did what this tool does, so that's why we use it now. And so I'm going to lead you through a recent use case. This is actually going to be in my production instance, and it is real. It is a real case where we had a pick list. We had a multi-select pick list that was used. We built a bunch of reports, dashboards off of a couple of values in this pick list. And the use case was we needed to move those to a new field. And hopefully you guys can see the screen, but this is just the case. And it was, okay, we need to move these values over to a new field. And so the first thing we did is, I'm going to scroll down here, we ran the Panaya analysis. And just from clicking one button, it said, look, there are 11 reports, 3 dashboards, 1 workflow rule, and 2 formula fields that are going to be impacted by this change. That was it. And I'm going to show you you can actually save the analysis. So even though we've made the changes now, this is what the analysis looked like before we made the changes. And it's right there. Okay, these are the formula fields, and these are the reports that are impacted. And these are the dashboards built on that report. Here are the reports themselves. Here are the workflow rules. If you have a very robust documentation process, you can figure some of that out. If you're good with Eclipse, you can probably figure some of that out. But we have so many reports, we couldn't, I couldn't even download all of them in Eclipse to look for where this field was referenced. I mean, it was just not, that's when I just threw in I was like, we need this tool. I can't spend my time doing this. And so this is, you can just imagine how much, we nailed it, right? We know exactly what the impact is. And I'm going to show you my case comment here. This is verbatim. Panaya is awesome. Here's the implementation plan. Update this field. That will fix all the reports and dashboards that live under this field. Update this, and then these are the 4 remaining reports that need to be updated. It took me 5 minutes to determine exactly what needed to be done. Go for it. Do it in the sandbox. Let's check that it works. Push it to production. So that was one use case for something that I had built myself a year before, and we had documentation on it. I could have dug through it and found all the fields and found all the reports, but 5 minutes, my support team can just run the analysis and say, here you go. This is what's impacted. What do you want to do about it? So for me, both how much it speeds up what we're doing, and how it keeps us from breaking stuff, makes us look smart. We know what's going to happen. We don't have to wait for the user to come and say, hey, this doesn't look right. We're in great. So I love this tool. We use it all the time. It can do much more than just this. Uzi might talk about some additional use cases, but we use it for user offboarding, so we can see the impact of users. We're also working on a number of integrations, and you can mark specific fields as being used in an integration so that when you run the analysis, it'll say, when you run the analysis, it will say, hey, if you change this field, it will impact this integration or this process. So it's really just a really helpful tool. I could even, do a sample analysis real quick if I wanted to go into ChangeGuru and say, okay, I want to look at a field, and we'll go with our tried and true opportunity stage. We'll see how the Wi-Fi does for us here. Pick an object, and find a field, stage. So there's stage. And so you can either analyze the impact of the entire field, or you can analyze the impact of a specific pick list value in that field. So I'll go with, well, I know one that has a lot of value, a lot of rules based on it, is board passed. So we'll do that one. And voila, we've got Apex class, we've got some dashboards, we've got a whole host of 150 reports that are based on that field, and a couple of validation rules, and I'm sure a couple of workflow rules as well. So I think it's kind of self-explanatory why it's an awesome tool. It's very easy to use, it's very fast, it doesn't take up any data storage. All of this processing is done, I believe, in Amazon, AWS. It doesn't take any of your data there, just the metadata, so legal had no problem with it. There's no actual data or personally identifiable information moving over anywhere else. And you can save these results, so you can say, okay, or you can export it and send it to your next tier of support to say, hey, what should we do with this? So I think that more or less covers what I was my portion of it. Uzi, you want to dive into anything else?
So before you thank you very much. Before you step down, is there any questions from the audience, either to myself or to Gaurav here? Please feel free. Very quiet audience today. Okay. So
it's free coffee over there.
Yeah, free coffee, T-shirts down there. All right. So before we do that, so thank you very much, Gaurav, for that. And I wanted to kind of show you a couple more things. So before we send you your way. One of the things that a lot of our customers were talking to us about was integrations. And I think also Gaurav had that case. So many customers have integrations built in and out of Salesforce, and trying to understand, or not to understand, but when you make a change, it's way too easy to break an integration. And being that the case, what we've done is we added a tab in the results of what we have here of integration fields. So this basically allows you that if you document any of your integrations, anybody can go and make a change, and then when they want to make the change using the Panaya app, you will see if it's going to be impacting integration. So maybe the integration was done by a different team, many times by a partner, and we're not aware of it on a day-to-day basis. Maybe it's a new admin who doesn't even know that integration exists, and we don't want that integration breaking, so it could be like a nightly process, a nightly batch that's running, or something that goes to your BI or to an ERP or any integration, and we just want to be aware of that. So we have that ability right here within the app as well.
I have a few defined if you want to go onto the tab.
All right, so Gaurav actually has a few examples, so let's see them.
Right. Where were we? So this is a work in progress, but let me go to the ChangeGuru app actually, so we see the tab. It is. So in the integration fields here, we've just started using this. So it looks like I've got one defined right now, and we're about to roll an integration into production. So there's going to be a number more. But it's very simple. You put the object name in, the API name of the object, the API name of the field, give the integration a name. And these are just pick lists where you can define the values for which system it's flowing from, which system it's flowing to. So we're getting ready to roll out a Salesforce to NetSuite integration. And next week, I'm going to be building probably about 15 more of these. And I mean, it's just huge in terms of what it protects you. It protects you from yourself, basically, right? But it's which is a nice thing to have.
Cool. Thank you for that. Another thing that I wanted to kind of show you. So if anybody follows like a change request or change management process, so there's a request coming in from the business, and the business wants whatever they want done yesterday, and how do we get that done, right? So they put in the request. They don't understand what the real impact is. You may know that, for example, they want to make a change. They're asking you to make a change to a pick list value. You know that value is being used throughout your system. Even without looking, you know that it's going to be a tedious project in order to get that done. But they don't care about that, right? So what we've done here is you have the export executive summary, and basically in the click of a button, it creates a PDF. The PDF will give you what you ran and the list of the impacted components. This could be attached to your change request process, or even if you don't have a change request process, this serving it back to management or to the business saying, this project is going to take me 3.5 weeks, and this is why it's going to take me 3.5 weeks. So it's no more business request and then admin/IT saying no or saying it's going to take forever. But this is something that really can go back and you can show it to them. So so first of all, you have real proof. That's one. And two, it builds better trust between the business and the admin side. So it's no longer, he said, she said. Yes, Gaurav.
And one thing that's important here is it's not just your kind of declarative development that's kind of referenced, but you can see Apex classes, Apex triggers, Visualforce components, etc. So it includes your code, which is huge.
Yep. Thank you for that. And so that's another thing that I wanted to show you. Another thing that for those of you who are dealing with code, is, or even if you're not dealing with code on a day-to-day basis. So obviously everything is hyperlinked, so it will take you to where you are within setup, or if it's a report, it'll take you directly to a report. But I think in regards to code, I think something that's a little bit more interesting for you, whether you're dealing with the code itself or not, is the View Source button, this magnifying glass. And if you see it basically opens a pop-up and will show you where within your code you're going to be impacted. So you can have hundreds or thousands of lines of code. So not only you're telling you that it's going to be impacted, we're showing you where within the code it's going to be impacted. And I think that's something which is very useful, whether you're making the change or understanding there's a change, sending it over to the developer, shortening time significantly there and making sure that the change goes in quickly. I think Gaurav mentioned, but the save analysis option gives you the ability to save the analysis based on when it was run, and you can go back and work off of that. So you can assign tasks and activities and so forth and make sure that you're working off of what you ran, the point that you ran it. one last thing that I kind of wanted to share with you is, so we looked at fields and values. There's profiles and roles, which is the same concept. And I think that from an admin perspective, the user's impact analysis is something which is pretty interesting. So we all know that case where we need to deactivate a user, and Salesforce tells us, no, 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 you're not going to deactivate this user because he's being used in multiple places, right? Yeah, I see all those heads going like this. Exactly. So, but we don't know, is that, let's say there's a workflow there. Salesforce says, no, you can't delete it because they're in the workflow. Is it one workflow? Is it 100? Which one is it? They're in a validation rule. How many validation rules? So here in a click of a button, we're going to see where exactly this user is being used throughout the system. Allows us very easily and quickly to go and deactivate the user. Or, by the way, not necessarily deactivate, but maybe once upon a time, someone used a person's naming convention somewhere in the system. All right, so my name is Uzi, and then someone hard-coded the word Uzi somewhere within the system. Not the right practice, unfortunately very common. Now Uzi has left the company, or we don't longer need those rules. Pretty tedious work to go and find where that name is within the system. And this will find it based on first name, last name, alias, email. So you'll be able to find it pretty quickly. Is there any questions that anybody would like to ask? Yes. All right. So the question was, do we actually say what the functionality that's going to be impacted or what the approach should be to making a change? So the answer is from a testing perspective, you're asking, yes. So we don't build a plan or look at the plan side. We just look at the metadata impact. So you need to know what your requirement is in order to get to it. You want to add something, Gaurav, to that? Okay. And again, there's so many use cases that could be used with the app that, if we try to limit it to a certain use case, it would be pretty difficult. And the amount of things that you can do are endless. So it would be difficult to do that. Yes, sir. All right. So the question is does the app have the ability to track changes that were done in order and view them, right? Am I getting that correctly? So the answer is from a technological perspective, the answer is yes. Currently what we have built in the app, the answer is no. So we actually track, we run a nightly snapshot of your system every day. And basically any time that you're running a query, it runs based on the extraction that was done in the last 24 hours. So theoretically we have the ability to compare between the versions that you have. But we haven't put it into the app currently. It's something that will probably happen in the second half of next year. Now that we have a mic, is there any additional questions that you'd like to ask? All right. So I really appreciate everybody stopping by. If you have any questions, you can feel free to step up to Gaurav, to myself after the session. We're also on the AppExchange, and there's a full free trial version on the AppExchange that you can try out. And that's it. Enjoy Dreamforce.